We prophesy to you, you will rise, you will shine, you will prosper in Africa. Hear the word. Liberia, sweet land of liberty. We prophesy to you, you will rise, you will shine, you will prosper in Africa. Hear the word. Liberia, sweet land of liberty. We prophesy to you, you will rise, you will shine, you will prosper in Africa. Hear the word. You are lifted, amen, hallelujah. Liberia, you are lifted, amen, hallelujah. We prophesy to you, you are lifted, amen, hallelujah. You are lifted, amen, hallelujah. Kingdom shall come to your life, amen, hallelujah. Nations shall come to your life, amen, hallelujah. Liberia, you are lifted, amen, hallelujah. We prophesy to you, you are lifted, amen, hallelujah. We prophesy prosperity in the government, amen, hallelujah. We prophesy righteousness in the government, amen, hallelujah. We prophesy holiness in the government, amen, oh, you are lifted, amen, hallelujah. Liberia, you are lifted, amen, hallelujah, amen. Liberia, sweet land of liberty. We prophesy to you, you will rise, you will shine, you will prosper in Africa. Hear the word. Liberia, sweet land of liberty. We prophesy to you, you will rise, you will shine, you will prosper in Africa. Hear the word. Hallelujah. Come on, Liberia. Rise up from your slumber and enlarge your foot, for the day of your lifting has come. For favor shall embrace you from every angle, and your enemies shall see your lifting. They shall see your rising and bow. Hallelujah. Come on, join me. Let's celebrate Jesus. You are lifted, amen, hallelujah. Liberia, you are lifted, amen, hallelujah. We prophesy to you, you are lifted, amen, hallelujah. No enemy shall rise up against you, Liberia, amen, hallelujah. No enemy shall come against you, Liberia.
Mr. President and his entourage, welcome to this great country of ours. This is indeed a home away from home. And I'd like to say, feel relaxed while spending your day here. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. President, firstly for selecting our county for this all-important event. Ganta has been a place of attraction, and I think you can see along the road the attractions of the great people of Nima, and this speaks volume that indeed Nima is a place, indeed a home away from home. And I'd like to say to Mr. President, thank you for selecting our county again to be a beginning place for your development under your administration. Today we are proud as a people to see the paper on the road starting from Ganta to Yekepa. We are seeing the team from the Ministry of Public Works doing the feasibility, and in fact the appraisal now on the road beginning from Senikole to Logwatu and from Ganta to Tapeta. We'd like to say thank you and congratulations for all that you're doing for our people of Nimba. We are proud of you, and I want to stop here not to take much of your time to say it again, congratulations, and we stand by you as a people. We're going to support this government to the final end. Thank you, and God bless you.
We'll have the overview of the Pro Agenda Development Program, and that will be done by the Honorable Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Samuel D. Toure Jr.
Today we are here to witness the launch of the Pro Agenda for Prosperity and Development, the 5-year development plan that replaces the agenda for transformation of the previous administration. I extend profound thanks to His Excellency President Dr. George Manneh for my preferment as Minister of Finance and Development Planning, a position that confers upon me the statutory responsibility to lead the development of a national blueprint to socio-economic development and transformation. Let me also extend overwhelming thanks to the team of Liberians who developed the plan. This is a Liberian-owned plan. Thanks also to one of the aims of the PAPD is to build Liberian capability. And to have a plan developed by Liberians was remarkable, because that's the first sign you know that Liberian institutions will be managed by Liberians to lead to success. So let's give the Liberian team, I don't know if the members of the team are here, they could stand up, but I don't see them. So members of the team, can you stand? All right, so please, take your flowers while you are alive. Let me also extend special thanks to the Deputy Minister, Tannen Bronson, and Assistant Minister, Benedict Kuluba. Mr. Kuluba, your cooperation with the team of consultants was very good in leading to this result. We hope you continue to work hard for your country. I thank all of my cabinet colleagues for valuable inputs, even inputs at yesterday's cabinet. And of course, profound thanks to our development partners whose inputs, reviews have sharpened the focus and direction of the plan. I say a big thank you to our development partners. Let me thank all Liberians across the country, from Bokonjide to Nimba and Maryland, where consultations were held. Liberians in the diaspora in Europe, in Brussels, I know consultations were held in Philadelphia, Minnesota, in Ghana, Africa. All Liberians, say a big thank you for the inputs you've made into the plan. Let's give our people a big round of applause. This Pro Agenda was led by Liberians and is owned by all Liberians. The plan encapsulates the fears, the anxieties, criticisms, the impatience, the ideals, the perspectives, and the lessons learned all Liberians. So this plan has everything that all Liberians have argued about, have demanded over the past 12 years. We've crafted it into this one Pro plan. We now have a Pro agenda completed in record time. Effective drafting of this agenda began in March 2018, and we're here launching today. This extraordinary pace is due to the pressure coming from the Executive Mansion under the aegis of His Excellency, Dr. George Manneh. Let's give thanks to the President. Moving from the PAPD to effective delivery is the most important aspect of today's ceremony. A development plan is only a statement or an aspiration. The ideas contained in plans have to find their way into the lives of real human beings. The pace of implementation and the coordination within government and among the government and its development partners, as well as members of the private sector, will be critical in the next 5 years. In the last 12 years, Liberia did not meet any of the Millennium Development Goals. In the next 5 years, the government and its partners should place the country on a path to meeting the Sustainable Development Goals, which have now replaced the Millennium Development Goals. If we achieve the goals and objectives under the PAPD, we achieve the SDGs, since the PAPD is linked to both the SDGs and the Agenda 2063, the vision of African transformation under the AU. One of the reasons why Liberia didn't meet any of the Millennium Development Goals is because of the twin shock of Ebola and the commodity price collapse of the last several years. With all due respect to Ebola as a degenerative factor, this epidemic merely exposed the fundamental absence of a resilient private sector in Liberia. Ebola also exposed his country's historical dependence on raw material salesmanship. So the question that this PABD is asking, this is the question. Now that we Liberians and our development partners know that our private sector is weak and that our economy is undiversified, how do we change this paradigm so that another macroeconomic shock or another epidemic, God forbidding, cannot derail Liberia from the path of meeting the goals under this PAPD or the goals of the SDGs or Africa agenda? That is the critical question. How do we change the paradigm? This is why the PAPD places economic diversification and private sector-led pro-poor growth at the center of its development strategy. Lifting 1 million Liberians out of income poverty over the next 5 years. The PAPD aims to lift 1 million Liberians out of poverty over the next 5 years. This does not mean that those Liberians are going to be rich. No. It means that those Liberians will have stable and sustainable income from which to support their various livelihoods. The plan aims to do this by enabling the private sector to grow and produce jobs in various sectors of the economy. It is these jobs in agriculture, in forestry, in manufacturing, and in services sector that will give Liberians that sustainable income. The plan will take Liberia's, where the private sector falls short, the plan weaves the cocoon of social protection for the vulnerable and the poor to protect the incomes of these vulnerable members in our society. The plan calls for an aggressive scaling up of social protection and for redefining the meaning of social protection. The logic of social protection under this plan is that the poor and the vulnerable are a priority when macroeconomic shocks hit the country. When prices are rising because of the overvaluation of the Liberian dollar due to well-known macroeconomic shocks, the poor and vulnerable must be protected. A few days ago, President George Manneh announced a major social protection policy innovation by declaring all public colleges and community colleges free of tuition. The income parents and students have to spend on tuition at these colleges can now be spent on essential goods and commodities because of the global price dynamic. This is the fundamental definition of pro-poor governance. And to those who have asked, what is the meaning of pro-poor? This is the fundamental definition of pro-poor governance. And to those who have asked, what does pro-poor mean? You have your answer in the free tuition policy. The PAPD will also relax infrastructure constraints to private investment. It looks to deliver a minimum, and I mean a minimum, the lowest level of 800 kilometers of paved new roads. So a minimum, it can deliver 1,500, but it cannot go below 800 kilometers of roads. Through a combination of domestic resources, support from our major development partners, and private investment, the government will deliver its road infrastructure over the next 5 years. In terms of road development, Liberia will be radically different, a radically different country. These will not just be roads to nowhere. These roads will be linked to economic growth clusters or special economic zones so that the economic activities accruing from these roads can pay for the concessional loans that finance them. The plan will take Liberia's electricity generation beyond 500 megawatts and reduce electricity tariff by liberalizing the electricity sector. Where electricity is expensive and where there are no roads, you know the answer. There can be no job created. That is the challenge of our economy today. Providing reliable and affordable electricity means the Liberian Electricity Corporation has to do more. Mr. President, when you took office, the government owed LEC about $6 million, and the utility company was struggling. The contractors managing the Mount Coffee hydro plant, who are doing the maintenance there, were threatening to walk away because the government of Liberia had not been paying them as required under the maintenance contract. To date, Mr. President, you have authorized the payment of more than 4.5 million United States dollars of government debt to LEC. And I can report to you that LEC is doing much better now. They still have a lot to do, but we are beginning to see some strong gains. Also, because of these payments you've authorized, we may be able to improve the getting electricity indicator on the World Bank Doing Business ranking, making it easier for businesses to get electricity in Liberia. Thank you again, Mr. President. Thanks to financing from our development partners, the World Bank, the EU, we'll be able to have more than 40,000 connections very soon in the next 12 to 18 months. Those projects are already underway. Investment and expansion in the Greenville, Buchanan, and Harper ports will open new private sector possibilities. Under the PAPD, the government is presently working with the private sector and development partners to operationalize special economic zones, stable crop processing zones that can provide jobs for many of our young people. This plan will transform the human capital space. Mr. President, at the commencement of your administration, you inherited a difficult human capital situation in the country. A huge fraction of Liberians are not entering school at the age of 3. At primary and secondary levels, students are not reading at grade level. So a 6th grade student could be reading at a 2nd grade level. That's a challenge. Only 3 out of 35,000 Liberians who sat on the West African placement test were able to pass both math and English. That is a tragedy in human development. In health, more children under 5 continue to die from preventable diseases, and an increasing number of mothers are dying while giving birth. The PAPD is challenged, and it has answered the challenge to turn these difficult statistics around. The PAPD will reduce the number of students that are out of school and that are not entering school at the age of 3. The plan will also ensure that more qualified teachers are in the classroom and that the current teacher gap of some 3,000 or more teachers is closed. Under the PAPD, a whole range of creative programs and innovations will be delivered by the Ministry of Education in conjunction with development partners and education NGOs to improve student and teacher outcomes. The plan makes huge investments in training medical and health workers and empowering them with new tools and technologies. An elaborate public-private partnership framework for healthcare delivery is also being developed under this plan to crowd in private resources for healthcare. The plan takes some strong measures to ensure macroeconomic stability and to deliver public financial management more effectively. The PAPD aims to deliver macro stability by moving Liberians toward economic diversification. The persistent macro shocks the country has experienced have their source in commodity dependence. When iron ore prices drop, government loses both foreign exchange and revenue, which have implications for exchange rate volatility, inflation, and the ability of the government to protect essential services for the poor and vulnerable. In our recent engagement with the International Monetary Fund, we made it clear that these dynamics are not created by governments, who must develop policy approaches to resolve them. These approaches can be more difficult in a context like Liberia that has a dual currency regime. Under the PAPD, the Technical Economic Management Team, under the leadership and direction of the President, is delivering a series of measures to stabilize the economy. The only sustainable solution in our case is the generation of foreign exchange to support the Liberian dollar domestically. While that long-term goal is being pursued, the government will take short-term measures. One of these, for example, will be to require companies earning foreign exchange to keep some of their foreign exchange here in Liberia. Okay, sure. This is a temporary measure. The government will engage stakeholders on the content and timing of this policy, and so far, in preliminary discussions, they do not seem to be against the idea. The central bank will soon release new CBL bonds that are competitively priced as a means of soaking up excess Liberian dollar liquidity. The development of a local currency bond market to mobilize domestic savings for possible project financings and for developing a local capital market is a major strategy for macroeconomic stability. A delegation from the International Finance Corporation of the World Bank is expected in country to begin technical discussions in these directions. The government under the PAPD will take aggressive steps to give strength to the Liberian dollar. The Liberian dollar is the lawful, legitimate currency of the Republic of Liberia, and no business entity should refuse to accept it. Government is also presently contemplating the increase in the share of Liberian dollar that it pays at a level that does not distort the exchange rate situation. In terms of borrowing, the government is committed under the PAPD to limit any new borrowing to concessional loans. That's music to ears of my development partners here. The government under the PAPD will not borrow at a rate that exposes Liberia to adverse risk of debt distress. However, the challenge of Liberia's debt situation is that the previous acquired debt has not translated into gains for the private sector. So under that context, new borrowing will be necessary to move the economy around. The plan will avail more transparent budget execution. The government's fiscal authority, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, is planning a move towards zero-based budgeting to determine the true cost structure of major spending entities. Wage reforms are also ongoing, and proposals for strengthening the civil service agency as the sole entity of hiring government workers is also being studied. We plan to report expenditure data more transparently and to trace the impact of public money, public spending on key outcomes in health, education, and the private sector. Mr. President, you recently appointed a Doing Business Climate Group. That group holds its first technical meeting on Tuesday at the Ministry of Finance. This group you challenge to identify quick wins and turn the business climate around. Many of the individuals in this room will be invited to that meeting, and we can assure you that under this new PAPD, we will deliver short-term wins as you demanded, and we'll look for a long-term strategy to turn the business climate around, Mr. President. Addressing the sources of fragility is also key under this plan. The end of the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Liberia confirms the readiness of Liberians to sustain peace and build a unified country. Signs of this readiness are evident in the successful completion of the 2018 election and the political transition. The peace-building plan developed by the government of Liberia and the United Nations provides an overall framework for entrenching peace building. Critical elements of this plan are built into the Pro-Po agenda. Eventually, sustaining peace is about minimizing the sources of fragility and about minimizing disparities in access to national resources. All Liberians have equal right and should have fair and equitable access to the benefits of national governance. The PAPD will deliver this equity across a range of areas to ensure that all Liberians are productively contributing their fair share to their country. National transformation ultimately depends on state capability. How does the government deliver programs and projects more effectively and efficiently? The PAPD develops innovations and approaches that enable state entities to deliver better. State capability is not about merely delivering services. It is about ensuring that delivery is achieving its intended impact. The plan compels the government to gauge the capacity and capability of state institutions and determine neither changes or modifications in the process of delivering effectively for all Liberians. The key takeaway is that mere reforms across government means nothing when those reforms are not being implemented or when their implementation are not yielding impact. This is a huge plan that has to be financed and supported. The Cabinet adopted yesterday the Domestic Resource Mobilization Plan in its sitting. The Domestic Resource Mobilization strategy aims to raise an additional $1 billion from domestic sources. $1 billion. That's an ambitious plan, but it's achievable. The government commits to making the necessary investment in raising revenue. The DRM requires that the government take some tough decisions to grow revenue. One of these is to limit tax exemptions and duty waivers. A review of exemptions given in the past 12 years show that these exemptions have hurt the economy in a variety of ways. Under this PAPD and under the Domestic Resource Plan, the President and the government are committing to minimize disruption and grow the revenue so that Liberia can depend on its own resources. The PAPD has a financing gap of about $1 billion, and this domestic resource effort will be critical to meeting that gap. Over the next several weeks, upon this launch, the government will engage private investors through a roadshow and engage the donor community on raising support under this PAPD. This is the high-level overview of the PAPD. The rub lies not in the completion or the articulation of the vision. The issue lies in its effective delivery for transformation and for transformative impact over the next 5 years. To this, the government of Liberia commits to stretch the limits of public financing to produce pro-po effects. I believe our development partners equally commit to aligning their programs to the PAPD, and that under a new partnership framework that is being proposed. The private sector also commits to taking advantage of the opportunities afforded by the PAPD. All Liberians are encouraged to commit to seeing the plan work. Some commitment may come in the form of fighting power theft, so that LEC cannot lose money that can be used to improve the quality of teachers. And Mr. President, I'm impressed yesterday that somebody was arrested, either yesterday or the day before, for stealing power. This is very good news, and I believe our people can mobilize and work so that we ensure that power theft goes down and that the LEC becomes viable. This is a way of committing to the plan. Liberians commit to reporting teachers who are abusing students or who are distorting outcomes in the education sector. When we organize young people in communities to monitor schools, we will show our commitment to the plan. Liberians also commit to expose corruption wherever they see it, and the government commits to prosecuting those caught in the act of purloining public resources. If we all commit to doing our share, there is no limit to the possibilities of our national aspirations vouchsafed under this PAPD. This pro-po agenda will work. This plan will succeed. This country shall not fail. We will never falter, and that is your overview of your plan.
We'll now have remarks from some of our key stakeholders, and we will be starting with the resident coordinator of the United Nations, Mr. Yakub El Hilo.
Congratulations, Mr. President, to you and to your government, and congratulations to the Liberian team that in record time produced this plan. On behalf of the United Nations family in Liberia, I am truly honored to be saying these few words, not because of the launch only, but because of the opportunity that was given to the UN family in Liberia to contribute substantively in partnership with your team, Mr. President, led by the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, my brother, Sam Tway. We were privileged to have been given this opportunity to contribute, and it is indeed our responsibility as a UN family to ensure that we contribute not to the document, but to the implementation of the document, because that is the bottom line. Now that the PAPD is being launched today by His Excellency President George Manuel, we at the United Nations are going to immediately amend and produce a new framework for UN development assistance in Liberia to be totally aligned with the pro-poor agenda for prosperity and development. Mr. President, driving from Monrovia to Ganta, it is beautiful to travel around Liberia. It is beautiful because yours is an endlessly green country. I come from Sudan, where when you see a tree, you're lucky. But in Liberia, it is endlessly green. Endlessly green. So it is befitting that the launch of this agenda is not happening in Monrovia. It is befitting that it is happening away from Monrovia, because I believe the pro-poor agenda is not about Monrovia. It is about Liberia. And it is also befitting that a key priority for this president and his government is roads. And that is what is going to unlock the potential of Liberia. That is what is going to actually open up the economy, and that is what is going to transform this country. Because roads do not only facilitate and make easy the movement of people, they also make easy the movement of goods and propel the economy. So I am sure that as we go forward under the ownership and the leadership of the people and government of Liberia, the United Nations will continue to be a credible, a trusted, and a reliable partner. Finally, Mr. President, it is indeed my honor that only 2 days ago we marked the 73rd anniversary of the United Nations. And Mr. President, thank you very much for honoring us on that day by your presence, but also taking the opportunity to keep a living memory of a proud son of Africa who has been there for Liberia, and who, when he was the Secretary General of the United Nations, made sure that the United Nations peacekeeping mission deploys to Liberia, Kofi Annan. And you honored Kofi Annan 2 days ago. Thank you very much, Mr. President. His legacy will live on, and we will continue to keep that torch alight. And if it is true that a country should be grateful to a Secretary General, I believe Liberians are grateful to Kofi Annan, because it is through the intervention that Liberia was brought back. We are in this journey together, and I thank you, Mr. President.
I am so pleased to participate today in the launch of Liberia's Pro-Poor Agenda for Prosperity and Development. The U.S. mission in Liberia appreciates greatly the work that's gone into creating this agenda, having seen its genesis and watched its progress over many months. Mr. President, we commend your focus in improving the lives of the poor by giving them the skills, and the opportunities so long denied. This effort will have long-term positive ramifications for Liberia's future. By working to reduce inequality and invest in the health, education, and welfare of those most vulnerable, you will also accelerate the ultimate development of a productive Liberian middle class that will sustain the country's programs and progress. Evidence from around the world teaches us a crucial lesson. Liberia, like any other society, needs a strong middle class to create broadly shared prosperity and security for all of its citizens. As President John F. Kennedy so eloquently put it, in a free society can't not help the many who are poor, it cannot protect the few who are rich. This plan lays out a bold vision and provides a framework for advancing national development priorities as you work to implement the Pro-Poor agenda in the interest of all Liberians. Your agenda also reflects the self-evident but crucial truth that ultimately only Liberians can solve the development challenges their country faces. The development community will remain ready to help on your path to development, but to be successful, any strategy to overcome Liberia's manifold development challenges must be Liberian-owned and Liberian-led. The Pro-Poor agenda for prosperity and development launched today tells us in unambiguous terms that this administration is prepared to use the mandate it received from the Liberian people to create a path for sustained economic growth that can truly set Liberia on its journey to self-reliance. Mr. President, your agenda sets forth a very ambitious roadmap for that journey, and this is admirable, and it's what a leader should do. Achieving the targets in the Pro-Poor agenda will require trade-offs, hard work, sacrifice, and zero tolerance for self-enrichment and enhanced coordination among all stakeholders in Liberia's development. Please know that each partner here is committed to working hand in hand with you and your cabinet on the path in front of us, and we'll celebrate with pride wherever we land in the future, the day when all Liberians have access to opportunities through which they can define their prosperity. So thank you.
I think it's a privilege for me to be called upon to make some few remarks at this launch of the PAPD. First of all, I would like to congratulate the government of Liberia under the strong leadership of His Excellency for articulating this excellent strategy. I say this strategy is excellent because for us at the African Development Bank, this strategy speaks very well to our 5 priorities for the continent of Africa. In terms of feeding the continent, lighting up this continent, I think the Honorable Minister spoke a lot about electrification of our communities in Liberia, road construction to integrate the economy of Liberia to the economies of the region, improving the living conditions of the people of Liberia. So this strategy falls directly in line with what we want to do in Liberia. And Your Excellency, I would like to assure you that as we begin the preparation of our new strategy for Liberia, this document is what will inform our strategy for the next 5 years. On this note, I also want to thank the team that worked on this document because there was a lot of consultation in this process. We, the development partners, were involved. We were consulted. We did put in our contributions. So thanks to the team and the leadership provided by the Honorable Minister of Speaker to get this document done. What I would like to say in conclusion, Mr. President, is that on behalf of the President of the African Development Bank, I would like to reassure you that we are going to put our quills to this strategy to make sure that we support it fully, because we believe that the launch today marks the beginning of the hard work. It is the beginning of hard work for the bank, and I believe it is the beginning of hard work for all development partners, the beginning of hard work for all stakeholders, government, civil society, and all Liberians. And we will be part of this journey to make sure that we take it to the logical conclusion. Thank you so much for your attention.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today representing the European Union. First of all, I would like to congratulate the government and the people of Liberia for having approved this PAPD, this Poor Agenda for Prosperity and Development. It's a major breakthrough, and I want to acknowledge the efforts of the Liberian government in having prepared and approved this very important document for the future of Liberia in such a short period of time. Congratulations. I would also like to say that the European Union remains deeply committed to continue to support Liberia. The European Union has been supporting Liberian development for a long time, and of course, we will continue to remain fully engaged in accompanying, supporting the efforts of the Liberian government in order to make progress in the development of this country and move forward in the development of this country. I would also like to say that we are finishing our current programming cycle. We will finish soon our current programming cycle, and we will start soon a new programming cycle. But of course, under the new programming cycle, we will support this PAPD. It will be a guiding line for us in our new and future programming cycle in Liberia. Finally, I would like to say that I have been able to contemplate the beauty of this country in my travel from Monrovia to Ganta. This is really, as my United Nations colleague said, a very beautiful country with a very, very large and strong potential which can be tapped, which can be developed, and I'm sure that the European Union and other international stakeholders will continue to support the development of this beautiful country. Thank you very much.
I bring you greetings from His Excellency Ambassador Ibrahim Kamara, who is currently out of the country. He asked me to represent him here. We're very much happy to be a part of this very important ceremony. Mr. President, I also want to join in commending you for sustaining the peace and the stability of the country since the transition that was witnessed early part of this year. Liberia continues to remain peaceful, and for us in the African Union, that is the fundamentals upon which any major progress can be made. So congratulations to you and your government, and of course the people of Liberia. Mr. President, the AU has its Agenda 2063, which has aspirations, and as I listened carefully, the Minister of Finance highlighted it, and we're thinking that as today this PAPD is launched, most of the goals and aspirations will come alive through the implementation of the strategy. Traveling from Monrovia to Ganta this morning, I saw lots of people by the side of the road. But what really touched me was how some of these kids can jump into the water, they swim, they come out, they are so happy. You see some of them waving as the cars passed. And it all dawned on me that today is all about these children. Today is all about the Liberian people. And in talking about them, I'd want to say, Mr. President, that first and foremost, every Liberian wants a 3-square meal per day. They want to eat. That's fundamental. They want to have access to good roads, as you've always committed to. They want to go to hospital or clinics when they fall sick. Girls, women want their rights respected, not abused. They want to be seen as human beings and want to be treated as such. The elderly want to go home retiring with good benefits. These and many more. Even persons with disabilities have lots of challenges they want to be taken care of. At the end of the 5-year term of this plan, if smiles can be put, on the face of these people, then I think that economic indicators will translate into social impact and people of Liberia will feel happy. So we want to encourage that as also development partners support, Mr. President, there will be distinct targets as we go along to ensure that all the goals and aspirations outlined in this PAPD will be realized. At the end of it all, people want their lives transformed, and that is why we all gathered here. Again, I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, why I don't attempt or intend to make a speech, but permit me to express my emotion for this day. Today, I'm so emotional, and you can only measure that emotion by the semblance of the day you were announced as president for this republic. I'm emotional because we stood between the test of times. I remember in 2011, His Excellency will not remember, when he and myself were running campaign, I wanted to be represented in Lofa County. We ran the campaign on the vision. The Liberian people gave us the opportunity, and he gave me the opportunity to translate this vision under the leadership of Minister Samuel Tue, to translate it into a policy document. Today, I feel so emotional about that. Permit me to also recognize, if you are here from the Division of Planning, Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, just stand at the back there. Just stand, let the President see you. Your Excellency, there is a small team as a division that works, that has a ministerial responsibility, working overtime with all of our consultants under the leadership of our Minister of Budget. Minister Tana Bronso, I want to say thank you for the opportunity and the leadership. And our consultant of school yesterday, you met with them and we recognized them. Your Excellency, your vision, as the minister has clearly stated, your vision is not just a theory. This National Development Plan is an actionable National Development Plan. The difference it brings to the table is that it looks at regional development approach, that cluster national development, to look at the disparity that we have in our country in terms of access to basic social services. Besides that, it also considers the gender dimension, the gender disparity in access to basic social services. Without much ado, Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me say, Honorable Minister Samuel Tue, after a critical work and review and consultation from the counties and comments from the President, and let me say this, Mr. Minister, you did something to me which I was like caught. The day you asked me to present the vision to the President, I felt you were the one going to do it. But when I look in the hall, you were out. I'm like, what? What do I tell the man who has the vision? And so I went there and told His Excellency, I've just come for you to assess the extent to which we understand your vision. And he was proud of us, Mr. President. If we could coordinate the development of this vision, you can count on us to coordinate the implementation of this vision to the fullest. Without much ado, on behalf of Minister Bronson and the team of the Division of Planning and all of our consultants, Mr. Tuer, I want to say this is the National Development Plan. The responsibility you gave us from the President has been well articulated, and we hope that Liberia will move forward as a result of this actionable National Development Plan. Thank you.
It gives me a tremendous sense of pride and joy to behold a document that embodies the hopes and aspirations of the people of this country that you have dedicated your entire life to serving. On behalf of the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, on behalf of the entire Cabinet of the Republic of Liberia, I have the singular honor and undiminished privilege to present this purple agenda for prosperity and development, whose nomenclature came from you. Purple agenda for prosperity and development is your coinage. That coinage now is labeled on this document, which contains the aspirations of our people. It's my honor, Mr. President.
It is my distinguished honor and singular duty to introduce and invite to the podium the People's President, our President, the President of the Republic of Liberia, Dr. George Manenwia, for a special statement and official launch of the Purple Agenda for Prosperity and Development. Ladies and gentlemen, your President.
Today is a historic day celebrating the birthday of a strong Executive Squad Chairman, Mr. Bay Traore. I want to wish you a happy birthday on the day that we are launching the Purple for Prosperity and Development. Happy birthday. Every morning since I became President of Liberia, I thank the Almighty God for blessing me with the opportunity and privilege of serving the people of Liberia. Every day of my life, I pray for God's guidance such that He will order my steps to do that which is right and best for the people who have entrusted me with their leadership. I pray that He will grant me the courage, wisdom, strength, and above all, the means to transform my dreams and vision for the development of this country into concrete reality, so that the hopes and aspirations of the Liberian people are fulfilled in the land of equal opportunity and prosperity for all. When I was elected by my party, the Coalition for Democratic Change, as its standard bearer to contest for the presidency. These dreams and vision form the basis of our party platform, which was a people-centered pro-poor manifesto that promised to deliver the transformation that most Liberians are yearning for in the vein over so many years. On the back of that platform, we were swept into office by a vast majority of Liberians who voted for a change for hope, and who saw in us an ambition and determination to make positive change in the prospects for prosperity. You will be aware that after just 9 months in office, we have already begun to deliver on some of our promises. Within the framework of our party platform, during that period, we also embarked upon the preparation of a 5-year national development plan that will present a clear roadmap to the attainment of our national goals and objectives. In so doing, we have engaged in extensive consultation with all our stakeholders, including our international development and financial partners and the private sector, to ensure their fullest cooperation, participation, and support. This was done not only to give them the opportunity to see clearly the government's development goals and priorities as they venture to make loans grants and give technical assistance, but also to avoid wasteful overlaps and competitors by coordinating their respect programs. It is therefore with unbearable pride and the strong feelings of optimism that I present to you today the pro-poor agenda for prosperity and development, the PAPD. As the National Development Plan of the government of Liberia for the next 5 years, July 2018 to June 2023. This plan, sometimes called the pro-poor agenda, it is a framework for inclusion, a more equitable distribution of our national wealth, and a right-based approach to national development. It is the second in a series of plans leading towards goals of Vision 2030, and is aligned our national plan with the African Union Agenda 2063 and the Global Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, over the next 5 years, we will develop our country, unite and reconcile our people, educate and develop our youths, and promote peace and human rights. We will build a harmonious society based on the goal of economic empowerment, especially for the underprivileged. Our pro-poor agenda is therefore designed to give power to the people, promote economic diversification, protect sustainable peace, and encourage good governance. Liberia cannot be developed without good quality infrastructure, and a skillful labor force. Therefore, over the next 5 years, my government will invest in high quality infrastructure, including roads, affordable energy, and air and sea ports. Investment will also be made in telecommunications and ICT, housing, water, and sanitation. More importantly, we will invest in our people, particularly in their education, health, and in the ending of widespread vulnerability. We will also place emphasis on national security in order to enable our people move and live freely without fear. With the withdrawal of the United Nations peacekeeping mission, the UME, in Liberia, we are now in charge of our own security. It is the second in a series of our plan. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we take charge on our own security, let us invest so that our people can be secure. We will, therefore, invest in security, maintain the peace. The effectiveness of this national development plan will be determined by our capacity to implement the plan contained therein effectively and sustainably. And in order to do so, we will explore every avenue available to us to seek the financial support that will enable us to attain our goal. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I said in Grand Bassa, we cannot achieve our goal when we can reconcile the irreconcilables. For Liberia to prosper, for Liberia to develop, for us to build, send children to school, create jobs, peace is the ultimate. So let me say that the PAPD sets out clearly our vision and pathway to the prosperity we seek for our country and our people. And I pledge to you today my fullest personal commitment and that of my government to act purposefully to achieve these goals. I urge my fellow Liberians to buy into this plan and take ownership of it so that Liberia will become the sweet land of liberty that we all deserve by God's command. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the book, the Bible, that your hopes last in. Let us promote it and make sure that it works. With peace, I believe every line of this book will be implemented. I want to thank everyone that worked on this Bible for prosperity. May God bless you all. Peace to Liberia.
Well, you just listened to the president giving the updates on this portal agenda. So keep to it.
I'd like to thank His Excellency for that special statement and for the launching of the agenda, development and prosperity. We would just like to make a few announcements. First of all, we would, on behalf of the organizing team, thank all of you for coming, your presence, for driving from around the country to be here today in support of the program. And we pray that as you drive back, that you drive safely and be careful. Don't take advantage of the paved roads and, overspeed. Take your time so that we can all get back home safely.
Liberia, sweet land of liberty, we prophesy to you.